In your readings regarding the Constitution of Canada, you have read how the Constitution divides lawmaking power in sections 91 and 92 between the federal government and the provinces. It assigns certain things to the federal government, certain things to the provinces, and then there are some topics of shared jurisdiction. And you've read how the Charter of Rights and Freedoms in Canada prevents the government from making certain rules. Now, when there's a dispute about whether a particular rule is correctly made under one government's jurisdiction under 91 or 92, or whether it's beyond their jurisdiction to make that rule due to the Charter, you have to ask the question of someone, and that someone is the courts. So the judges have to decide whether a rule was properly made under 91 or 92, and whether it's allowed to be made under the Constitution or under the Charter. So, how this works out in practice is like this. Government will make a rule, the government creates a rule, and then that rule gets enforced against the citizen. The citizen objects to the court, and the court is asked to examine that rule and the Constitution, the constitutional foundations for the ability to make that rule, or the prohibitions under the Charter, and then the court is asked to say yes or no regarding the constitutionality of the rule. So the court will decide that yes, the government can make that rule, or no, the government cannot make that rule. Another kind of dispute that comes before the court is the applicability of a rule. Somebody could go to court and say that although that rule is correctly made by the correct government according to the Constitution, and it's not prohibited by the Charter, that rule doesn't apply to this particular fact situation. So when the rule was enforced against the citizen, it ought not to have been. So the citizen again will object. For example, a kid puts a small motorized, small motor on a skateboard. He's driving down the street. Policeman stops the kid and says, "Hey, you're driving down the street. That's a motor vehicle." Kid says, "No, it's not. It's a skateboard." Policeman says, "Hey, that skateboard has a motor on it. That's a motor vehicle." Kid says, "No, it's a skateboard with a motor on it. It's a skateboard." So the question is whether the requirements under, say, the Highway Traffic Act that requires there to be brake lights and turn signals on motor vehicles applies to the skateboard with the motor on it. It'll be a question of the applicability of the rule. So the court's going to be called upon to determine whether or not that skateboard with that small motor on it is or is not a motor vehicle, and therefore has the rule of the Highway Traffic Act apply to it. That would be a case of the applicability of the rule being questioned and brought before the courts for a decision.